Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Todd and Shane's Cloudy Podcast number 393, recorded live Wednesday morning, June 13th. Speaking of the podcast, we got a shout out to our sponsors, the folks at SysKit. They make SP Kit and a bunch of other great tools. Shane likes to remind me that I gush about them too much here, so I'm trying to keep it short, but they are the official sponsor of the podcast, and I've been talking to those folks over the last week. They've got some new functionality they're going to put into their products. They've got some things in the pipeline. I'm very excited about that. If you already have their stuff, you will see that when the apps update. But if not, you should jump in there. Go to syskit.com and find out about that. And since I'm talking to them about new product stuff, if you've got any ideas, things you'd like to see in their product, hit me up, let me know, or let them know. They would love to hear your feedback at syskit.com.
Very exciting. I just realized, listening to you ramble, I listened for a minute and I tuned out. I realized 393, we are 7 away from 400. And I'm guessing everyone's expecting us to do something big and exciting. I bet we haven't thought about it at all.
I have thought about it, but I'm in exactly the same spot you are. I'm like, oh my God, we're really close to 400. People are going to expect us to do something really exciting. We're going to disappoint them. And that's kind of where I left it. Yeah.
I mean, disappointing our viewers is kind of our thing. So
it's a long, glorious tradition here. Yeah, absolutely. We'll have to map that out and see what it's going to be, because I'm going to be on vacation a little bit and you're going to be gone. So it'll inevitably happen at some point where we're not both here.
It will. It will. Oh,
yeah.
Jeff cracking us. Jeff hasn't been on in 2 months. The first comment out of him is, why start doing something good now? Yeah. Love you too, Jeff. Miss you.
Yep. I used to be worried. Yeah, Jeff hasn't been in the chat room for a while. And then, the love shows up there. Thanks a lot, Jeff.
Yeah, I think he just put out a new class on one of those platforms. I don't know. I saw him tweeting something about learn something because he's smart. We're not. I don't know.
So he's been heads down, hasn't had time to put up with our shenanigans.
Who does?
And been on the road. So a bunch of things to talk about. And as always, we like to talk about me here at the podcast. And so one of the things that I've been busy with the last couple of weeks is writing some stuff about the SharePoint conference that we just came back from. Mostly recovered from that. Didn't get the conference crud like a lot of folks do when they travel. So I'm in pretty good shape. But one of the questions that came up all the time at the conference, and actually I got hit with it the first time before the conference even started. We were out Sunday night with some folks, and it was the first time that I heard it. And the question was, now that SharePoint 2019 is coming out, should I even bother upgrading to SharePoint 2016? Should I skip it and just go right to 2019? And that came up again before the conference ever started. And then there was the keynote, and they were showing all the SharePoint 2019 stuff. We got it during our day-long session on Thursday. It's a pretty common question. And it comes up all the time. We've been fielding this every 3 years for 10 years now. And so I wrote a blog post on that, and I put that on the SysKit blog. So you can go to toddclint.com and get the link for that and read it on the SysKit blog. And I talk about my feelings about that.
Yeah, and I agree with your feelings, right? I've cheated, I've read it, so I won't tell all the people the happy ending there. But I agree with your feelings. Is why wait?
Yeah, and that's the too long didn't read. Is yes, you should upgrade to SharePoint 2016 for a whole bunch of reasons. You should keep on whatever plan you had. It's going to be a while before you're wanting to put 2019 in production anyway. So don't get even farther behind the curve with your 2010 or 2013 farms.
Yeah. Well, so in speaking of upgrading to 2016, right? I've got the customer who's doing the 2010 to 2016 dance right now. And this week while I was gone, they decided to. They're working through attaching their databases kind of a very, very controlled manner, which I love, right? They're kind of moving 1 or 2 site collections into a database because they've got a lot of bigger, older stuff, and then moving just a database over, working through its issues, doing the next database. It's been a great little process. But while I was gone, she brought over a database, and it just lost its mind when she upgraded it, right? It just went left, sideways, and backwards all at the same time. She kind of panicked. She's like, whoa, wait, Shane said I can just easily undo this. She went straight to SQL and deleted it out of SQL. Yes. Todd, what happens when you delete a database from SQL that's attached to SharePoint?
SharePoint loses its goddamn mind.
That is a true story. It creates these lovable, wonderful things that look nothing like Annie called orphans.
Nope, they're not adorable. They don't have Sandy the dog. Nope.
They did have Daddy Warbucks. I came in to save the day. But yeah, so she created orphans. So, while I was in studio, in between sessions last week, I'd be sending her a little this, a little that to try. We couldn't get through it, so we finally hopped on this morning, and it was fun. It had been a long time since I'd went into the databases and had to like look at the tables to kind of see what was here, what was there. And that's what I tried to get her to do. I was like, we just go in there and just delete those 2 lines out of the the config database. That's all you got to do. She wouldn't do it. She said
good.
No. She said no means no. I was like, oh, this is like college all over again.
One of those kinds.
Yeah. But so I ended up figuring out, so get SP content database would not surface the database. It's like,
okay,
go away, don't do your thing.
Yep.
I'm like, but here's the GUID. I'm getting it out of your table. I know that you know this is a content database.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't having it.
Yep.
Turns out that get SP database without the word content in the middle will absolutely get the database object.
Yep.
Once you have the object, you can run the delete method.
Yep.
30 seconds later, bye-bye, orphans.
Yeah, so there's 2 ways you can get orphans. So she had site collection orphans. And yeah, those are the easier of the 2 types to get rid of, if I remember correctly. 'Cause it's been a while since I've fought orphans. Not in the literal sense, because orphans are adorable, the backbone of this great nation. But yeah, it's been a while, because that was a pretty common thing before. Back in the dark days of SharePoint, there were a lot of SQL timeouts that would cause orphans, and it was a pretty common thing. Now it's not such a big deal.
Yeah, I had not seen one in, I mean, it'd probably been 10 years since I'd had to fix one, if I'm, being honest.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's probably been 3 or 4 for me. Yeah, and the way that I normally get them is if somebody restores a database in SQL underneath SharePoint, and it either had, the new version of the database has more or fewer site collections in it, and SharePoint didn't get the message that had changed, and yeah.
Right, and which is just back to the moral of the story. Don't ever touch the SQL database if it's attached to SharePoint. You can't go into SQL, do things in that database while it and SharePoint are talking to each other. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, if you do that, SharePoint will not speak to you on friendly terms anymore, and it's nobody's fault but your own. You sabotage that relationship. So yeah. But that was good that you got in there, and I was, like I said on Twitter, I was a little surprised you were able to figure that out, because it had been a few years since you'd done it, and you weren't really that good in the first place. So you didn't have a lot of altitude to fall from. But yeah, you did. I'm glad you figured that out.
Well, thank you. Format C: was plan B, and so.
It works every time, and if it works, how can it be wrong? To quote George Costanza, if it works, how can it be wrong?
I mean, is there a smarter man than George Costanza? Has anyone ever shown us more about how to be lazy, efficient at our jobs and our lives than George Costanza?
You'll just have to, my desk is large enough that I can sleep underneath it. I'm just saying, I don't, these are the things you plan for when you set up an office. Can I stretch out under happy to report that I can.
You remember when Nicola was pregnant the first time when we lost her because she took a nap under her desk? We spent an hour searching the neighborhood thinking pregnancy brain had made her wander off the reservation. Like, what has happened to her? No, just to sleep under her desk because that was where she wanted to take a nap.
That is awesome. Oh, I love it. I love it. So upgrade your SharePoint. Don't do it in SQL. Another thing, since we're talking about me and my blog, and I can't remember if we talked about this before, so I decided to err on the side of caution and talk about it again.
Now, the side of caution would be not to talk about it again. The side of Todd is the center of the universe is we talk about it again.
Yep. So, and Jeff's in the room here, so hopefully he will appreciate all this. I find, you and I love PowerShell. PowerShell is my weapon of choice now. I just use it for everything. I've got Philips Hue lights. I'm working on some PowerShell commandlets to control the lights in my office. I mean, it's just all the stuff that I do. But somebody linked something on Twitter a couple of days ago, or I can't remember what it was. This is a month ago now. I got it. But anyway, it was a URL shortener. And URL shorteners are amazing. They make the internet work. But the thing is, you can never tell what's behind them. And so I can't remember what the context that I got this link in was, but I'm like, this might not be something that I can trust. But I'm like, how can I, how do I see what this is before I click it? And I'm like, well, who can do URL requests? PowerShell can. So I just basically have a one-liner that you can run in PowerShell where you can feed it any short URL, and it will tell you the URL it's going to redirect you to. And so that works with any of the, Bitly and Tickly and T.co and all the things, the ones on my blog, all of them, you just put the short URL in there. And basically PowerShell does that first hop where it goes out to the short URL, it gets the redirect, and then it spits the redirect URL back out. So
Pretty cool. Pretty cool.
handy little tool. I use that all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that, PowerShell has a whole wealth of things, so invoke web requests, and then all of the, like, you can get the JSON back and the REST API calls and all that fun stuff. And as non-developers, it's somewhere that, honestly, I haven't spent any time. I'm guessing you also do not spend a lot of time pulling back JSON with PowerShell. But it's an interesting world because once you do, I did it with that SQL Server Reporting Services project. Once you do, it's like, oh wait, these are objects again, and I can do this. So it's probably a place I should explore more. I just haven't.
Well, and that's funny you mentioned that because the Hue stuff is all JSON, and as a non-developer, I have no idea what JSON is. Don't care. Couldn't recognize it in the crowd. But the fact that PowerShell has some of those building blocks built in, it makes it easier for me to be able to look at somebody else's stuff and format the PowerShell piece to fit that because PowerShell is doing a bunch of the lifting in the end. So it has helped bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah.
So, and in the chat room, people, Mark Chrisman linked up the Fatboy Slim video, Weapon of Choice. If you haven't watched that in the last year, do yourself a favor. Some of Christopher Walken's finer work. Yeah.
Just let me know the next time you're gonna ramble on for 5 minutes, and I'll go ahead and watch it. I don't know if I've ever seen it, quite frankly. So.
Oh my goodness, we'll have a viewing party. It's the best thing ever. But yeah, so if you've ever wondered where those short URLs go to, you can use PowerShell to resolve those. I should write that as a function. I just haven't done it yet. And then, like most PowerShell dorks, I have a module file where as I cobble this stuff together, I roughly put it into a function so I can I've got like an uptime one and things like that. So this would be a good one for that one. And that's on my blog, toddclint.com. And if you go to toddclint.com/posh, it shows you all of my PowerShell blog posts.
Was that your favorite Spice Girl?
I think it's unreasonable to make somebody choose their favorite Spice Girl. It's like choosing your favorite child. You can't do it. So I don't want to have to choose. I did. My kids are really into America's Got Talent, and Mel B is on there now. She was Harry Spice or something. I forget.
Yeah, she was a scary one, right?
Yeah, Scary Spice. Yeah. So that was. And it's funny because my kids have no idea about that. Like they have no idea that that's who that person is there. It's kind of funny.
I think we're dating ourselves, Todd Clint.
Yep. So another thing, and this is something that I've kind of been meaning to do and haven't done yet, but there are a bunch of podcasts like ours, likely all better in some regard, some way or another, but that are all about Office 365 or SharePoint or something like that. And our friend at Microsoft, Mark Chrisman, I can't pronounce any names today, Mark Cashman, put a blog post out here a couple of weeks ago with all of the podcasts that were recorded at the SharePoint conference. So they had the podcasting booth that, kicked our butt. But he has a podcast and he did his there, and then he had a link to all the other podcasts that were done from there. And so it's just a good group of the podcasts in this area. So it's, like I think Jason and John's BI one is in there, Bifocal, AC and CJ's is in there, yours is not in there. So if you are listening to this podcast and want some others that are similar to it, that's a good jumping off point because it shows you some of the other ones that are out there.
And it's some of our finest work with the worst audio ever, which says a lot because we've had some really bad audio shows. But that one took the cake. So I'm glad that that's the one that's finally getting us featured and exposured.
Good Lord. That was the better of the two for the folks that weren't around. We tried to do a second podcast, and after about 45 minutes, we had to abort because my laptop wouldn't keep up. It was a horrible experience. It was... Yes. Pretty bad. So yes, the terrible one that Mark has here is the better of the two, sadly. So go ahead and check those out. Give those guys some love.
Yeah, look at that beautiful picture of us. I mean, it's so nice, right? That's what my Tesla has now. So, and so speaking of my Tesla, is there anything? So
Shane and I might have an impromptu hookup on Friday. I finally broke down, and I also purchased myself a Tesla, and so I'm picking that up Friday in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, it's a pretty crazy whirlwind of stuff. But yeah, so I'm flying out to Columbus Friday morning. Going to go to the Tesla Service Center and drive myself 13 hours back to Ames, Iowa on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing in this new model, right? We almost all seem to have one of these stories, right? Because I did the same thing. I flew to Raleigh and had to drive my butt 8 hours home with mine. So yeah, everyone's kind of got this, cool pickup story. But the nice thing is after 13 hours, you'll be comfortable with autopilot. You'll be like, I get this. I get how this all works.
Yep. If I don't end up, I doubt I'll end up making it home. I'll end up staying at some, shady motel 4 hours from home because I'm tired. But that was the thing. So you and I had talked about this before, and I was talking to the Tesla guy, and I think you did the same thing, bought one that was a showroom model. So it already existed. It was already there. It wasn't one of those customized and wait things for it. And so the car existed, and I'm like, all right, well, when can I get it? And he's like, it can be ready for delivery in, like 24 hours. And so I knew where it was at. I knew it was in Columbus. I was talking to the guy in the Minneapolis office up here. I'm like, sweet. So I can come up to Minneapolis in like a couple of days and get it. He's like, oh, no. And so I've been talking to Shane about this and about the delivery thing, delivering it from Columbus to Minneapolis. And Shane's like, the truck will go when the truck goes. It doesn't care how excited you are to get your Tesla or what kind of a hurry you're in. The truck from Columbus to Minneapolis will go when it goes. And so I'm like, oh, so I can get it in Minneapolis? And he's like, no. He's like, that'll be probably 2 or 3 weeks before it comes. So my options were to wait 2 or 3 weeks for this thing, or to fly, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, fly to Columbus, and then drive 13 hours back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm very excited for you. I know this has been a long awaited adventure, so.
Yeah. I'm trying to rope a couple of one of a couple of my buddies into flying out with me and then helping me drive it back. I don't think that's going to pan out because it's kind of short notice, but that's the plan.
So, and the important thing, everybody, so you know, right? So Todd is not caught up with me because I got my windows tinted yesterday, so now I'm one step ahead of Todd in the Tesla game still. So, so we're all on the same page. So 9 months when Todd gets his Tesla windows tinted, we'll know what's up.
Yeah, well, and that's, I got a bunch of buddies that have them, and so I've been kind of seeing how it works. There's the OptiCoat thing, and there's a bunch of stuff I got to do. I got an electrician coming this afternoon to tell me what the charging thing will be if I can get one of those put on the wall and how much of a pain that will be.
Yeah, I assume you're just going to do the dryer plug.
Yeah. Yep, I will. So Mark Christman in the chat room is mentioning about getting the Firebird logo on the Tesla's hood. Don't think that hasn't been considered, Mark. So my wife bought a minivan like 5 years ago, and because it was on the lot or whatever, she got a black one. And I was this close from getting a vinyl Firebird emblem for the hood of her minivan. And as you can imagine, a woman who's been with me for 20 some years, very patient woman, but there are times in her tone when I can tell she is not down with my shenanigans. And she picked up on that, and it was very clear that she would not be amused if she would come out into the garage and find a Firebird emblem on front of her minivan.
Well, as soon as we get done here, I will give her a call and make sure she has the same talk with you about your Tesla. There will be no Firebird emblems on your Tesla.
Well, yeah, and so the fact that the Tesla is blue and not black sort of throws off the whole Firebird thing. But yeah, so our friend Phil Oster, I think he was the one that was enabling me that because he knew where these vinyl things were. He's like, oh, you should get one of those. You should do it. And he photoshopped it too. When we bought it, he photoshopped so yeah, there will not be one of those on the Tesla.
And no dual exhaust, right? I've seen a few pictures of people who put, exhaust pipes in the back of their electric car. So yeah, you can't get dual exhaust. You can't get, there'll be no T-tops. So just want to set all these tones with you early.
Yeah, I feel like the Tesla may be able to hang on its own. I mean, I feel like it might be able to, without a bunch of stuff. But yeah, I'm excited about that. So that will come in. Yeah, I'll be out there Friday. So trying to convince Shane to drive up to Columbus or something to meet me so that we can have lunch or something.
Why don't you go and buy me a fancy steak or something if I'm driving all the way up there? I wouldn't even be hungry. I'm just going to throw it away. I just want to, he paid for this? Okay, put it in a doggy bag. I got to go.
Just take one bite and throw it on the floor.
Yep. Well, very cool. I'm excited for you. So
I'm terrified and excited. All very fun. So another thing about me, since this is the Alt Todd podcast, I think we should, keep up with that.
You were supposed to do the All Todd podcast last week when I wasn't here.
I did, and it was such a great success. We're bringing it back. We're getting it all back together. So we have a few friends that are using a service called Google Fi, and this is something that Google's had for a while, and it is a cell phone service that Google has. And what separates Google Fi from AT&T and all these other ones is kind of two things. Number one is they have a cap on what your phone bill can be. So it's kind of like unlimited data, but it's unlimited. So you only pay for the data you use. So it's $10 a gig. So if you use 1 gig, you pay $10. You use 1.1, you pay $20 up till 2 gig. But the thing is, your bill caps at 6 gig. And so after that, they do some things. So there's the whole billing thing. It's much cheaper. The other thing is they don't go to a single carrier. So there's a bunch of these small carriers that are MVNOs, which like if you buy a Cricket phone, it's really on AT&T's network, those kind of things. Google has not done that. Google is on several networks. And so because of that, they have some specialized hardware, but the Google Fi network, at least here in the States, uses Sprint and T-Mobile, and it kind of hops between them. And then it also knows about a bunch of public Wi-Fi spots, and it will jump on those automatically to get you service. So that means the coverage map is better than either of the other services because it can hop back and forth, but it's also cheaper. So, but the problem was you always had to use their hardware. You could only get in using their hardware, and they didn't have any cheap phones. Like the cheapest phone they had was $500 or $600, and I wasn't willing to play with it for that. Well, a couple of weeks ago, they came out with a $200 phone, and so you could do that. You could buy this $200 phone, get on their service, and what a bunch of folks have realized, including our friend Mike Fitzmaurice, is that if you get one of their phones and get it set up, you can take the SIM out and put it in another phone, and it will work. So I'm trying that right now. So I've got the phone. It's a Motorola G6. It was $200. It was not too bad. And so I'm kind of playing with it now to see what the coverage is like. And then at some point I'm going to pop the SIM into my regular AT&T phone, which is unlocked, see how it works. And if it works out well, I'll probably switch off of AT&T and go to Google Fi. And there's two other nerdy things that I really like about Google Fi. One of them is you can get a data-only SIM. So if you have like a tablet or something that's got LTE, you can get a data-only SIM, and it is free. It's not like a $10 a month thing for every one of these SIMs that you get. You just pay for the data. And right on their site, they're like, don't know if your device is good? Well, get a free SIM and try it out. It doesn't cost you anything. So I've got one of those on the way because I've got a couple of things that can do that. So that's pretty cool. The other thing is that it works its way in all of your text and voice stuff is built on top of Google Hangouts. So I can text from my computer with Google Hangouts, and I can make and receive phone calls from my regular phone number on my computer with Google Hangouts. I can also do it with my phone if I want to, but it's integrated. So the Apple folks have been enjoying this for years now, but now my computer can look just like my phone to other people. So if somebody texts me, I can reply by typing on my keyboard, not on my phone. So.
And I guess my only question here, I've never looked at Google Fi, but this would only be, you've got to be in the Android ecosystem, I would assume. I couldn't take a Google Fi chip and pop it in my iPhone and call it a day.
Well, so according to Google, no.
Okay.
They want you to buy the phones there. But I think Fitz did exactly the thing that you're thinking about. So that was a thing where he went out and he bought a phone that was Google Fi compatible, bought it off of eBay or something. Got the SIM from them, opened up the account, popped it in the Google Fi compatible phone, set everything up, got his account going, and then took that SIM out and stuck it in his iPhone. And it worked. So you might have to follow up with him. It's been like a month or so since he did that. So that's what I'm going to try. We'll see. And there's no contracts or anything. So if this doesn't work, I paid outright for the phone. If I find out it doesn't work with my phone, I just cancel it. It doesn't cost me anything. Oh, so Jason in the chat room is saying that Fitz is using Android these days. So Lori's saying, so if you have a phone that can use dual SIMs, can you set one up for Google Fi and one for Apple? I don't know that there's any, or AT&T. I've never used a dual SIM phone, but I would assume so. So part of it's also radios because different carriers have different frequencies and different, GSM versus CDMA and all that kind of stuff. So you'd have to have a phone that did all that. But it's for $200 up front and $20 a month, it's worth a shot.
Interesting. Yeah, I look forward to your research on this because I definitely have not looked at my AT&T bill in years. I'm betting that I grossly overpay for Nicola and I's phones without realizing it. Because
Yeah. So one of the things that we got is we've got a Amazon Kindle Fire that's got LTE. The thing costs us $20 a month to have the SIM, and it's almost always on Wi-Fi. When we don't have Wi-Fi, having that SIM in there is a godsend because it's, in a car with a kid who's upset and you're like, but it costs us $20 a month. With this, it costs nothing. It's a data-only SIM. It just uses data. So the fact that it hardly uses any data would be perfect. So
that first month with the kids stream nothing but content, $60. You're like, ah!
but again, you only pay up to the whatever, so it's not a big deal. So there'll be a link in the show notes and a link in the chat room that takes you to the service. It's got the referral thing, so I use my referral code. If you use my referral code, which is in the link, you get $20 off. I get $20. So that's full disclosure there. But it's an interesting service. Again, I've been curious about it for a couple of years, but the price to get in was super high, and so I never wanted to do it. But now that it's $200, I'm like, yeah, I can do that. So.
We look forward to your research.
Yeah, and one interesting side effect of that was I was setting it up and playing with it, and I needed some kind of a stand to set it in so I could play with it. And Amazon has a ton of cheap little phone stands, so I got this one here. You can't see it very well, but it was like $10, and it's a phone and tablet stand, and it folds up so it fits well in my backpack when I travel. And actually, I folded it the wrong way. But so it's a little stand like that, but it would be great like on airplanes if you wanted to watch. I've got like a 10-inch tablet that fits in there, but it's like $10. So that's why I've got the thing sitting now while I'm playing with it. But links for that in the chat room and all that too.
You are just a wealth of knowledge. Well, let's just continue on this fun conversation about things about us because, it's what we do.
Sure.
So when I was out in Redmond last week, one of the things I saw in someone's office, I will not use his name because he might not want the world to know, but sure. He had one of those brand new 37-inch curved, magnificent monitors. And I'm in love. I need one now.
I got the frantic text from Shane. He's like, I just saw this thing. We need to get this. Why don't we have this? I must have this.
Yeah, and the very first question I had for that guy was the same very first question Todd had back to me. It was, well, but I've had 2 monitors forever. I like 2 monitors, or I like 3 monitors. Why would I do this? And he's like, well, and he showed me, right? He's just got now one big plane, and so you never maximize anything. You just have a giant, copy of Outlook in this corner of your monitor, a giant web browser over here. And because there's so much real estate, it was no big deal that on this one monitor he had, I think the example I saw, 3 or 4 different windows up and doing. And then he said, if that really bothers you though, the monitor software is even smart enough to say, all right, show this as 2 monitors so you can just snap things and be like, the right half is a separate monitor versus the left half. The amount of flexibility, the options, my brain exploded. I was like, this answers all the questions. It's beautiful. It's better. It's easier to use. I need it.
Yeah. And I had all the same questions that Shane had. And so he's wearing me down. Jason Himmelstein in the chat room has a Dell one, and he said Dell has some great software that helps manage that too. And I don't think the one that you saw in Microsoft had the Dell software. Had some software, had something different though, right?
Yeah, it was the Dell software because he had the 37-inch. I think the Cadillac of the Dells right now. I think is the one he had.
Gotcha. So Shane mostly had me convinced that we should. So him and I are on Amazon looking at these monitors the other day. The problem that I have, and I don't know if it's insurmountable or not, is I've got 2 24-inch monitors right now, and they work perfect. I would be taking 2 perfectly good monitors. Shane's situation is a little different because his monitors are different size and it's kind of a janky setup. So he would benefit greatly from it. Whereas I've got 2 identical 24-inch monitors that I've had for years and they work great. So that's going to be the tough part. But it was funny because as Shane was telling me this magical tale of productivity and all that, I was telling him that my only complaint about the dual monitors is the seam in the middle, that I can't center my stuff because I have to have everything. I have to have like one monitor that is literally more in front of me than the other because if I maximize something, I can't have it break that seam. And so that this would fix that. And so I just need to figure out if I want to spend that money or not.
Yeah, and looking around, so the one I saw was $1,000. I found it. I'm like, I'm not going to spend $1,000 on
No.
But I found, and this is where I need to kind of go do more educational stuff, but I found some that are roughly the same size, but by generic manufacturers, they get to more like 450, $500, and I'm like, I might be able to make myself do that. But then I don't really understand. I guess there's like UWHD and there's UHD. There's all these different
Yeah.
things, and so
Yeah.
they're all resolutions, right? I just don't know which resolution. Like, I don't know. I guess I need to go to like the monitor store and play with a bunch and just figure out, can I do the lesser resolution, or do I really need the one that he had that had the UWX OBZD resolution?
Yeah, if you go to the monitor store, go quick because I have a feeling all those brick and mortar monitor stores may be closed by the end of the day today. So you'll want to do that over your lunch hour. But yeah, that's yeah.
We have
So
oh, good.
I say I've thought about it before. I've never been seriously tempted until you came back and just couldn't shut up about how awesome it was.
Oh yeah, Jason just linked a Dell one in the chat room that is. So that one's that's $600, but that would work.
It looks beautiful. I mean, it just looks glorious.
Yeah, and as you kind of alluded to, so I have a very janky setup here to do the recording. And so one of the things I have is the desk that goes up and down. So the monitor that I am doing the podcast on now, I record against, it's here. But my second monitor hovers kind of in this middle spot over here. So like when the desk is down, the monitor's too high. When the desk is up, the monitor's too low. So my second monitor is always painful to interact with. Whereas if this was just one magnificent 34-inch behemoth. See, now I'm getting like all excited here, imagining it.
And I caught a fish and it was this big.
Uh-huh. But then I still fight the whole echo things, and I worry about what that's going to do to my echoes and meh.
Yeah. No, I think you would definitely benefit more from it than I would because I've got a pretty decent setup right now. But I'm thinking about it. With all the money I'm going to save not buying gas for my car.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds silly, but once you get used to it, and not going to the gas station, I just can't tell you when it's 0 degrees there in Iowa, it's snowed 4 feet, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to use the app to turn my car on. Okay, I'll be out there in a little bit. I'll get to it. And I don't have to go to the gas station. It's life-changing.
Yeah. Andrew Connell has one, and he posted a picture here a week or two ago. He was at the gas station with his Tesla because he needed to get gas for his lawnmower. And he's like, he got a lot of looks, and it felt kind of uncomfortable, and yeah.
Yeah, we sometimes meet my mom at the gas station that's halfway between us to drop the kids off. And same thing, I'm like,
I'm above all this.
why am I here?
We're going to meet at a charging station next, Mom. Yeah, so that's so I like the monitor. You may have sold me on that. So we got about 7 minutes left. We already talked about H. I want to talk about G quickly for a second. So Shane and I have talked in the past about how I've got battery backups on all of my stuff because I've got some servers here at home, demo servers and things like that. And I always make fun of Shane because he doesn't have any battery backups and I do. And that is one of many reasons why I'm smarter than Shane. Last week, there was a big storm that came through, lightning, thunder, hail the size of my head, the whole deal, and the power went out. But that's no big deal, right? Because I've got all these battery backups. So power went out. Everything stayed, the things that I thought were going to stay up, stayed up. And I went and checked the battery backups to see how much time they had left on them. I've got everything evened out pretty much. They both had 25 minutes of runtime left. I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm going around, I'm getting the flashlights and all that kind of stuff. And I'm watching my clock because I know I've got to be there. So it doesn't look like the power's going to come back on. So at 19 minutes, I'm like, all right, so I'm going to go downstairs and start shutting everything off. So they can get graceful shutdowns. And I walk down into our mechanical room, and it is very, very quiet. Like it's supposed to be quiet because the furnace and all that's not running, but it was very, very quiet. And all of my little computers had already shut themselves off. Apparently my battery backup had been a little bit optimistic about how much runtime it had left, and everything was dark. All my battery backups were dead. They had gone out. So I just bring this up as a cautionary tale that if you've got that, keep an eye on those because apparently when you buy the battery backups at Best Buy, they might fib to you a little bit how much runtime they have.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I have no running servers here anymore. It makes me very happy.
I would have loved to have had that, a week ago. But everything was fine. I rebooted everything and there was no loss. It was all good, but it was a little, I'm like, I felt so smart. I felt so smart for having these battery backups and so smart for having everything balanced out. It's so smart for looking at my watch and coming in early. I mean, it was just like, I am the smartest man. Oh, wait a minute. Why is it so dark and quiet in here?
And the battery backups that we had, they actually had a, sorry, I've been sick for 2 weeks. They had a connection back, and so they would actually tell the servers to shut down. Right? So the APC software, I think.
Yeah, so mine have that also. I think that stuff's probably pretty janky. But the other thing is I've got multiple machines hooked up to them, so they would only work on one of them.
Then you run PowerShell to have it cascade.
I could probably do that. I could have one shut the other one off. So, oh well. Okay, so you can check your battery backups. You did that one. Okay, so I want to talk about Jay, if you don't mind.
I mean, the show's been all about you thus far. Why would we change that now?
You stick with it. It works. Yeah. So a couple of common loves. This was one of those things where we got the chocolate and the peanut butter together. It was a good deal. Shane and I have already talked about PowerShell and how great it is and how we want to do everything with PowerShell. And Shane was out last week in Redmond recording some PowerApps and some Flow videos and all that. And Shane's talked about PowerApps a lot. And here last month, the PowerApps team released, or I guess maybe just a couple weeks ago, the PowerApps team released PowerShell commandlets for PowerApps and Flow. So it was like a bunch of stuff we both love, all mixed up together. So I wanted to mention that. So number one, check those out. But I also wanted to mention them because I was talking to a customer about some migration issues and all that. And one of the things that they brought up was that they had 2 Office 365 tenants and they were migrating from one to the other. And there's a bunch of tools out there for migrating mailboxes and a bunch of tools out there for migrating, SharePoint content and all kinds of things like that. But they were lamenting that there was no good way to inventory or migrate flows or PowerApps in a tenant. And I said, my God, you're right. That's a huge gaping hole. And so I emailed one of the people I knew on the PowerApps team, and I'm like, hey, I've got this need. What's the way to do that? And the person was like, well, we've got these PowerShell commandlets. And I had seen them come up in my feed, but I hadn't looked at them. And I'll be darned, the thing that I was looking for was in those PowerShell commandlets. And so I'll probably blog that here within the next week or so on how to do that. But yes, with these commandlets do a bunch of things. But one of the things that they do is they let a tenant admin at the tenant level get an inventory of all the flows that are defined in their tenant and all of the PowerApps that are defined in their tenant.
It's very cool. Yeah, I'm very very jealous that you got to play with them before I did. I saw them come out. I made the notes to go back and look at them, and May and June are just train wrecks a month. I just haven't. There's like 10 new things I want to go and learn and do. I just haven't had time. So I'm glad that you've poke that bear, so when I need to learn that stuff, you can just be like, here's my notes.
I'll be your guy, yeah. Now, I will caution you, these are brand new. They are a preview, and they are very much written by a team who knows PowerApps and Flow very well, but does not know a lot about PowerShell. So some of the PowerShell conventions aren't what you're exactly used to. The output's kind of rough. Again, it's a preview, so give them some space. And the guy did mention that they pay a lot of attention to user voice. So if you've got some comments about the PowerShell commandlets, that's a good way to give them some feedback at user voice.
Yeah, and they do, right? People always look at the black hole that is user voice. I can tell you, I've put things out there.
Oh, yeah.
I've had changes. I've had interactions. You just, maybe it's a black hole when you put your stupid idea, like there should be a Todd is the greatest commandlet. Yeah, they tend to ignore that stuff, but...
No, that's a bad example. I talked to my mom about this. We both agree that that's the very cromulent thing to be asking for.
I mean, it seems like the type of thing that would just make one of those ASCII text of your Firebird symbol and life would be grand.
My face and the Firebird symbol coming in. Oh, glorious. Let's get on that.
Sorry I brought it up. I guess we should switch to Community Corner, though, right? It's 11:43. We are rolling.
Well, do you want to talk about your PowerApps video quick?
We'll come back to it, because I still want to do I. We'll just do I maybe next week.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, Community Corner. So you had one. Throw that one out there.
Yep. So it looks like I will be speaking at the Business Application Summit out in Redmond, July 22nd through the 24th.
Fancy.
So the Business Application Summit, if you've not heard of it, because let's face it, most of us are not, it's a conference that's kind of dedicated to this new ecosystem, right? PowerApps, Flow, Excel, Power BI, Dynamics 365, all of these citizen developer platform tools that we're all, really gung-ho about these days. Those guys decided to spin up their own little 3-day conference out there in Seattle to kind of, I think there's like 120 some odd sessions, and they're just trying to spread the love and, do a bunch of, promoting and stuff. So I'm really hopeful. I think they've got big plans for it. This might be the next version of the SharePoint conference. So,
excellent.
This is a good one, and I'm getting in on the ground floor because that's what I'm trying to do here is being on the ground floor. So excited about that one. I'll have more details, figure out what I'm going to talk about, things like that here in the coming weeks.
And by being on the ground floor, we're not still talking about sleeping under your desk, right? That's a different...
It was the second floor when she did it, so it was okay.
Excellent. Well, that's good. I look forward to that. And then we've got SharePoint Saturday Charlotte in August 11th. And then SharePoint Saturday New England, October 20th in Burlington, Massachusetts. So those are both great. And then you and I, maybe we should drive our Teslas out to Boston for SP TechCon.
Tesla road trip to SP TechCon. Tell Andrew to come up too, right? We can just all have a Tesla convoy in.
We can fight for the charger there. That'd be great. But yes, we'll all be at SP TechCon. Lori will be at SP TechCon. That's in Boston, August 26th through 29th. Shane's doing a PowerApps all-day session, and I'm going to sit in there and get him tea and rub his feet when he gets sore and all that kind of stuff. And then we're doing a bunch of other sessions that I've forgotten what we're doing. But we'll be there all week. It's a great conference, and we'd love to hang out with you and say hi and all that.
It would be very fun. I'd also like to point out, I will apologize now, I've heard several times the stupid Windows chimes. When you're listening to this, you're like, why do I keep hearing these Windows chimes? It's because since this latest update, I do not know how to make that notification noise go away. So hopefully by next week, you will no longer hear the Windows chimes every 36 seconds as I get emails and such, but no promises.
I look forward to hearing your mastering of Windows.
It changes. These updates pop in and everything just changed.
It does. Should it get off your lawn too? Is that sweet?
Look, I'm a crotchety old man. I haven't gotten old yet, but I am definitely a crotchety old man at heart.
Excellent. If you would like to talk to the crotchety old man, you can hit him up on Twitter at Shane's Cows, email him shane.young@boldzebras.com. I am the less crotchety older man. I am at Todd Clint on Skype and todd@toddclint.com on the email. So thanks, everybody. We will see you next week. Chat room, stick around. We'll be interacting with you for a few more minutes, but we'll see everybody else next week.
Toodles.
Bye.